Hi, this is Scotty Turner, and I'm talking to you from my den in Nashville, Tennessee. And at the urging of Sandy Surge with Music Morsels, I'm going to attempt to put my entire career down on tape. Hopefully it won't be boring, but sometimes I have trouble remembering what I had for breakfast yesterday, and I've got to go back to the mid-50s to really start this project, and it will entail my early days in the business, and then the time I spent in Lubbock, Texas, and Buddy Holly, then on to Tommy Sands, Guy Mitchell, who sadly passed away recently, and then on to Eddie Fisher, who I believe has a book out at the present time. I'm glad I'm not in it. Then on to Herb Alpert and Central Songs in Los Angeles, and finally to my heading up the country department with Liberty, Imperial, and United Artists Records. I've been asked by many publishers to write a book, but I feel that you can't hear a book, and when I talk about a song, I like people to hear it, and that's the reason for these tapes. I will also cover my experiences with Harry Nilsson and Phil Spector, and there'll probably be two tapes involving my late co-writer, Audie Murphy, who was just a great songwriter. But one thing you will not find in these tapes is anything derogatory, because I remember when I was very young, an old fella up in Nova Scotia, where I'm originally from, one time he said, if you can't say something good about someone, don't say nothing at all. In fact, I wrote a song about it back in the 60s. Jerry Wallace, the great singer that had Primrose Lane, In the Misty Moonlight, Shutters and Boards, etc. Jerry was kind enough to do the demo. And that song was eventually recorded, except they changed the name to Wesley. But as I mentioned, I was born and raised in Sydney, Nova Scotia. And the first music that I really was turned on to was traditional Scottish fiddling, which is still in vogue up there. And in fact, I've got a very close friend by the name of John Allen Cameron. And John is a great singer, but he also plays 12-string guitar and fiddle. And John opened for Anne Murray for about 8 years. At any rate, from Sydney, Nova Scotia, my dad was transferred to Montreal to take over a company that was called Dominion Sound Equipments. And my father was an electronics genius. Sadly, I didn't get any of it. I think it skipped a generation and passed over to my son. But while in Montreal, I got into sports heavily and played football, ran track, and also played hockey. So I asked my parents if they would send me away to a boarding school so I could learn something, and I ended up at Stansted College in Stansted, Quebec, and I never played more sports in my life. But after graduating from Stansted, I played professional hockey, nice, gentle sport. But I also earned a place on the 1954 British Empire Games team. And I was a long jumper at the time, and thinking back, I think the best leap I ever made was about 26 feet 1 inch, which back then was acceptable. But after running track in Montreal, I was offered scholarships at various United States universities, and I chose one in Iowa, University of Dubuque. And I unfortunately broke my collarbone playing football, and when I was in the hospital, the team bought me an old beat-up guitar and a 5-minute guitar course and a Slim Whitman album. And the guitar only had 5 strings on it, and I guess I learned to play with 5 strings playing along with Slim Whitman. And as you'll find out later on, it's a very coincidental business. Well, after I graduated from Dubuque University, I had 17 offers to take my master's and doctorate degree. And I opened a map one night and just closed my eyes and took a pencil and let it fall down on the map. And I figured, well, I'm going to go to the closest one to this pencil, and it happened to be Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech University, where I was taking my master's degree in education. And music really wasn't in my future at the time, although I did form a little group in Texas. We called ourselves the Raiders, Hal Goodson and the Raiders, named after the Red Raiders at Texas Tech. And I really was studying to take a position with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in their physical education training. But somehow I got sidetracked. And we used to play these little clubs around Texas, and I guess we were one of the first rockabilly bands, mainly because we didn't have a drummer. So this one fella from a radio station one night came up to us after one of our sets, and he said, listen, why don't you boys come down to the radio station and put down a few tunes, and it's just something to remember your little group by. So we went down one evening and put down 2 or 3 songs, and unbeknownst to us, he sent the tape out to Hollywood, California. And a label out there reacted. The label was called Solo Records. And they called us and said, look, we want to sign you to a contract. And we're sending in a producer by the name of Audie Valando. In fact, Audie is Tommy Valando's brother. And we went down to Norman Petty's studio. And Jerry Allison, one of the Crickets and Buddy Holly's drummer, played on the cuts. But what happened was I had met Buddy Holly, and this was before Buddy was a star. And I'll get into that on a future tape. But I called Buddy and I said, look, we've got a recording contract and we don't have any songs. And Buddy came over, and we spent about 4 evenings together putting some songs together. But apparently the producer, he really liked the songs that they had sent out to California, and they were, I guess the best word, they were attempts by me to write songs. And this goes back to 1956, Norman Petty Studio. We cut 4 songs. Hal Goodson is the lead singer, and if you hear any lead guitar, well, that's yours truly back then.
Who's gonna be the next one, honey? Who's gonna be the poor baby? Who's gonna be the next one, honey? All for your pickle heart. I was the first that came along. I thought you were bad, but I was wrong. I find you left alone, just you and your pickle heart. Who's gonna be the next one, honey? Who's gonna be the poor baby? Who's gonna be the next one, honey? All for your pickle heart. You wanted me to treat you right, never to quarrel, fuss or fight, but you gave me up to have to do last night, just you and your pickle heart. Who's gonna be the next one, honey? Who's gonna be the...
Apologize for making you suffer through that, but we've all got to write bad songs at one point. But we were just 4 green kids There was Hal Goodson, who, by the way, was the middle linebacker with the Texas Tech football team. Young fella from San Saba, Texas, the pecan capital of the world. His name was Eddie Edwards. Myself, and a guitar player who we had to switch to slap bass. His name was Leon Bagwell. And Leon Bagwell was from Loop, Texas. Population 8. Anyway, those were records that were done, as I mentioned, at Norman Petty's studio, where Buddy Holly eventually recorded. Those were done before Buddy went in the studio. But as I mentioned, I'll get into that at a later time. But that first record, I think it went to 99 with a black anchor on the charts. But our record label found a management firm in California, a fellow by the name of Nicky Stewart. So naturally, when you're as green as we were, you think the world is opening up for you, and you're automatically going to be recognized everywhere you go, and we were really nobodies. And we get out there, and we were booked in these little, as we call them, skull orchards, the bars that had chicken wire in front so you wouldn't get hit with beer bottles. But one instance that really sticks in my mind is that they booked us into a nightclub in Seattle, Washington. And for 25 years, that club had been a progressive jazz club. And all of a sudden, they decided to make it into a rock club, and we were the first ones to appear there. So if you can envision, we were kind of a copy band, and we did Everly Brothers tunes, and all the ones that were on the charts at the time. And the audience was 100% jazz fans. And when we hit that stage, I mean, they had no idea what was going on. But there was a fellow in the audience who came back after our first set, and I'll never forget him. His name was Joe Venuti, probably one of the greatest jazz fiddlers that ever picked up a violin. And Joe got up on stage with us during our second set, and he said, "Folks, these are nice kids. Now I'm going to play with them, and hopefully you'll enjoy what we're going to do." And Joe was kind enough to sit in with us, and that kind of broke the ice. And then we ended up at the Moulin Rouge, right on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, California. And again, that was a nightclub where Frank Sinatra appeared and Perry Como, all the big name acts. And here we come, and again, that was pretty tough because we really didn't go over that well, but Hedda Hopper happened to be there, the great columnist, and she invited us out to her home one evening and did a nice little write-up in the paper about the group, because rockabilly was just coming in at that time, and from what I understand, the recordings that you just heard or suffered through are now cult records in England. Apparently a label over there put them out, and only because I guess they were 3 of the first rockabilly songs that were ever recorded. Now I've got to skip back a little, and you'll find that from time to time on the tapes that I will recall something and go back to it. But the first night that we hit Hollywood, after driving from Lubbock, Texas, in the middle of summer with no air conditioning in the car, hauling a U-Haul trailer, our manager had set it up at this hotel on La Brea it was on Vine Street in Hollywood. It was called the Algiers. And we decided to just walk out and look at some of the sights, and we spotted the Brown Derby. And at that time it was the famous nightclub, so the four of us wandered in, and we kind of sidled up to the bar, and I looked up, and good gosh, there were two familiar faces sitting there. One was Jim Davis, the very famous cowboy actor, and the other was Foy Willing. Now, Foy Willing appeared in quite a few of the Roy Rogers films, and Foy had a group called the Riders of the Purple Sage. And man, I've never met a kinder man in my life, because he asked us where we were from, and Eddie Edwards said San Saba, Texas, and Foy said, well, I'm from pretty close to there myself, Belton. And Leon said, I'm from Loop, Texas, and Hal Goodson, believe it or not, was from a town called Muleshoe, Texas. And when it came to me, I said, well, I'm from North Texas, Sydney, Nova Scotia. And that kind of blew Foy away. And, I mean, here we were sitting with two Hollywood stars, and Foy said, well, what are you boys doing in town? And we told him that we were a little rockabilly group and just getting started, and that we were staying at the Algiers Hotel. And Foy said, well, I'll be darned. That's where I have breakfast every morning. I'll meet you two fellas right after, or tomorrow morning. And I remember the first time we went down to join Foy, Bill Frawley was there, Fred Mertz from the Lucy Show, and the two of them decided to kind of look after us. And before we ever made any moves, we always talked to Foy and Bill. And Foy and I became very, very close. In fact, we were just like grandfather and grandson. And he sure left me with some great musical memories. And again, you never forget that first star that you ever meet in this business. Foy was the first